Hey y'all, I'm Melissa from Melly Sews.
And I'm Beth from Sew DIY.
And Beth is in Austin right now visiting. You're here for ACL Fest.
Yes, yeah. And so when I decided I was going to come to Austin, I called Melly up. Actually, I DM'd her on Instagram and said, do you want to get together?
And I said sure, and we should do a YouTube collaboration. So we decided to do quick sewing gifts for each other, and
coincidentally, we both decided to do some cute little zipper pouches.
These are adorable. Beth made these for me.
And Melissa made this one for me.
And we're going to show you in tutorials how to do these different variations on the same idea.
So here I have my pattern printed out, some fabric scraps, a zipper, and a few of the tools that we're going to need to sew this project. So for this little zipper pouch, I designed 3 different sizes, a tiny one, a middle size, and then a large size, which I've already cut out here. You can choose which size you want, and the solid line is where you're going to cut it out, and then the dashed line is the seam line. And these little triangles, I like to think of them as little cat ears. These are the darts, and these little darts are going to give you some shape to the bag. So I came up with the idea for this pouch because I wanted a way to use up these kind of circular scraps that I get when I cut out a neckline. And I thought, oh, I'll make a little half circle zipper pouch. And then I was like, oh, I want to add, some shape to it. So we got the darts. And then like once you have the darts, you need to have a little bit extra cut out here in this pie shape so that after it's stitched and folded, the dart is going to lay right against the seam line. So that's why it's shaped a little bit extra. Let me just show you now what we do. So I'm going to do this tiny size. I'll set this one aside. And you just want to cut this out. Okay. Not perfect, but totally okay. So now we have our little pattern, and we are going to need to cut 4 pieces of fabric out. So you can see my scrap is like almost not big enough. This is probably a good example, but this is going to be fine. Like right here, the pattern's going over the edge of the fabric just a little bit, but that's totally fine. It's going to be in the seam allowance. It's going to be hidden inside the bag and you'll never see it. So let's just go ahead and cut this baby out. And you can use scissors or a rotary cutter like this. Be very careful. You could be fancy and use pattern weights. I don't have any, so I don't use them. I use my hand or something heavy. This is going to be the outside of the bag. So I just like to figure out how I can maximize my fabric. That seems good. It's easier when you have the pattern and the fabric in your left hand and the rotary cutter in your right hand and you keep everything lined up. Like if you're trying to go like this or this, it's a lot harder to cut. So I recommend rotating. And you can also just rotate your cutting mat if your cutting mat is on the smaller side, or if you have a big standing table, if you can like move your body around so that you're always cutting kind of this way and not trying to move your arm. That's a rotary cutting tip for you. Okay, we'll set these aside. And after you get all your pattern pieces cut out, we want to mark the stitching line for our darts. So what I like to do is cut out this little wedge. And if you were planning to use this pattern again, then I recommend saving this little wedge because you do want it for next time you cut. And so what you can do is just save it and put a little piece of washi tape over the top when you go to cut it out again. So right now we'll just cut one off, and then you could use a piece of chalk and just go like this to mark your dart. Or you could use a little pen. And here I'm just flipping over the pattern piece so I can mark the other side. So we have our darts marked, and you'll do this for all 4 pieces. And you want to make sure to do the markings on the wrong side of the fabric, because we're going to fold our fabric right sides together, and you want to line up those lines. So what I do is I put my pin through the line and see where it comes out on the other side. So if it doesn't go through the line, I'll just move the fabric until it does. And then I know it's folded in the middle. And then you want the fold to go right at the point. So here my pin is like pretty much at the point of the dart. And we can do it for this one. This is probably going to be a little easier to see. So just try to fold it with the point of the dart is on the fold, and then put the pin through the line and then hold that in place. And hold that in place, and then we're going to stitch just right along the outside of the line, because when we drew it, we drew inside of the stitching line. So we're going to stitch right along here. I'm going to go ahead and mark the rest of my pattern pieces and fold and pin them, and then let's meet up at the sewing machine. So here I have my 4 little pieces of the bag, and I'm going to stitch the darts. So I have my machine set up for a straight stitch, and general rule of thumb with darts is that you start at the outside raw edge and then stitch to the point. And these are just little tiny darts, so it won't take long at all. And I'm going to stitch right on the outside of the line that I drew. So at the beginning, I will do a little bit of a back stitch, and then just stitch right down. And I'm kind of feeling like this time I'm going to break the rules. Usually I would pull a long thread and tie it in a knot, but I'm just going to like back stitch. All right, and that looks good. It's much faster. Okay. And like if you are making these assembly line for Christmas or something, like or a holiday gift, then you want to go as fast as possible, right? Okay. Then you're just going to repeat for all of the other pieces of the bag. Okay, so now we have all those darts sewn, and just for efficiency, I'm going to start stitching the zipper instead of going right to the ironing board. So I have my zipper here, and I'm going to put, oh, hello, kitty. What are you doing? What are you doing? Come here. Okay, so you want to center your fabric on top of the zipper tape and put the fabric right side against the zipper. And this floral fabric is our fox. Okay. Oh my gosh, Fox, get out of here. Okay, so I'm gonna fold this fabric in half and just put a pin at the center point. And this floral fabric is our outside fabric. And then I'm going to do the same for the zipper. Okay, and then I will match these up. So we have our top fabric against the front of the zipper, against the zipper teeth. And then we're going to grab one of our lining fabrics, and I'm going to put that on the other side. Let's just line up our center point again. So we'll put this here, and then just get all those raw edges lined up. Okay, so here we have the lining right side is against the back of the zipper, and then the outside fabric right side is against the front of the zipper. So I'm going to change to a zipper foot and remove this one, set it aside, and put on my zipper foot. So my zipper foot has positions so you can have the needle on the left, on the right, or in the center, and I'm going to keep it in the center. I'm going to backstitch. Okay. It's not a bad idea to baste this first. And I'm just keeping the edge of my presser foot lined up with the edge of the zipper and the fabric. I think my floral fabric's growing on me a little bit because it was, I think, cut on the bias a bit. Okay, so that is stitched on. We have 1/2 of our pouch stitched. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So we will get our floral fabric and put it right side down and try to keep it lined up with our zipper tape and with the other side of the pouch. Okay, then we will take our lining fabric and put it right side down on the back of the zipper. So I'm just trying to get all these fabrics lined up. You could also glue baste the fabric to the zipper tape. Might help you keep it in place. Oh, I kind of I accidentally pulled my fabric out from underneath the presser foot. So getting it back in position. Okay, kind of didn't want to get started there, but it's okay. Come here. Okay, so right here, I'm getting close to my, like the end of the zipper, and depending on your zipper foot, you might need to move it out of the way. So I'm going to show you how I would do that. I would lift the presser foot, and then just reach in here and keep the needle down so it's going to stay in position, and then slide open this zipper. And it can be a little bit tricky because the presser foot's there and you might need to wiggle your fabric around. Mine doesn't really want to go. Okay, I'm going to lift the needle and then just try to hold this in place. Okay, there, I was able to open the zipper. I'm gonna put my presser foot down and just try to get the needle back in the same spot. So let's keep going. I'm gonna backstitch just in case. That was a little bit wonky. All right, now we can go to the end, and that zipper foot's not gonna run into kind of the head of the zipper. All right, backstitch. Okay, look, it's like almost a pouch now. So let's go press this out and we will get ready to sew the side seams. Okay, now we're ready to press the bag. If you have a tailor's ham, this will really help you with the darts. So what I like to do is press one set of darts to the inside and then the other set to the outside so that when they go together, they'll be nested and you won't get like a really big lump at each dart. So let's start with these ones. And this is like a pretty sharp curve, so it might be kind of hard to get in there, but just nose in with your iron. And we'll press both of those inside. And then these ones are going to go to the outside. And then repeat with our outside fabric. Okay, now we're going to press the seams that we just stitched around the zipper, and we're just going to press these flat, so pushing our fabric away from the zipper, and we'll do the same on this side. So if you wish, you could also top stitch right along here. That would be a nice decorative element. Okay, so before you stitch the side seams together, this is a good time to add any embellishments that you want to put on the front of your pouch. So you could put on like a little piece of rickrack or like some other kind of trim. I'm going to put a little loop on the side, so when it's done, the loop will stick out of the side seams. And I just cut a loop about 3 inches long, folded it in half. So I'm just going to stitch it down along the seam line before I sew the whole bag together. Okay, now we're going to keep our zipper open and fold this with our outsides together and our lining fabric together. And you just want to pin it, and kind of a good place to match up is at those darts. And I'm going to hold it all together with some pins. Oh my gosh, one set of my darts were done wrong, so I'm gonna have to redo those. But for right now, let's keep going. I obviously did not put stuff right sides together. So you can see here, we have one dart going this way and the other dart going the other way. And that makes them nest really nicely and be more flat, less lumpy. So what you also want to make sure is when you pin this together, you want the zipper tape to be going towards the lining. So I'm just going to hold this with a pin, keeping that going towards the lining. And then I'm going to make a little reminder for myself to leave an opening when I stitch around by putting 2 pins in here. So because I have the darts at the bottom, I'm going to leave the opening at the side of the pouch. Okay, I need to fix those darts. But what we're gonna do next is stitch all the way around, but leave an opening right here. We'll turn it right side out through this hole, but it's really important that you have your zipper open, that you have your zipper teeth going towards the lining, and that you have your dart stitched right. So I'm gonna fix this, and then we will stitch all the way around, leaving this opening. So I've got my darts all fixed, and this is all pinned together. And I'm going to keep my zipper foot on here in case it gets a little close to the zipper when I'm stitching over it here in the midway points. And I'm going to start at my starting spot and use a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So as you stitch around these curves, you'll just want to make sure that your darts remain flat, and you might need to lift and pivot as you go. So I'm using a metal zipper, and I want to be really careful that I don't hit the zipper with my zipper foot. Okay, I have this big lump here because my zipper stop is right here, so I'm actually going to reach inside and try to move it out of the way a little bit. This is just like real, real sewing. Okay, yeah, move that. So it's kind of in the middle now, and it's going to make this a little bit flatter. We have our zipper tape pointed towards the lining, and we'll just take it slow. Okay, phew. Okay, now that I'm getting back over to this side, I'm going to reach in again and open the zipper a little bit because I want to make sure that it's going to be open enough when we go to turn the pouch right side out. Okay, back stitch. Now we're going to turn it right side out through our opening. So there we can see our little tab from the trim. And here's our little bag. We have our side seam stitched, and you'll want to give it a little bit of a press, but first just pull out this lining, and we have a hole in the lining. So you can either slip stitch this closed by hand, or you can just top stitch it really close to that edge. I'm going to use my regular presser foot because I think I have a little bit more control. And I usually do this by machine because these stitches are not visible on the outside. So. And it's super fast. Okay, so now you just push that lining back in there. You can give your side seams a little bit of a press, and you have a little pouch all done. Perfect for carrying candy or whatever. I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial to make these pouches, and I will put a link in the end screens and down below so that you can go over to Melissa's page and learn how to make this little zipper pouch.